If you're an RN thinking about becoming a CRNA, you've probably seen people talking about the AANA's Annual Congress, and you've wondered, is this really for me? Is this something I should wait to attend until I'm in CRNA school? Will I feel out of place being surrounded by CRNAs? Or could attending now actually change the trajectory of my journey? The truth is, simply showing up to Congress isn't what creates value. Two people can attend the exact same conference. One leaves inspired, connected, and with a completely different perspective on their future. The other leaves realizing they could have experienced so much more. The difference usually isn't the conference itself. It's how they intentionally approached it all along. Welcome back to the CRNA Mentor Podcast. Today, we're talking with Dr. Hallie Evans, the AANA Senior Director of Education and Professional Development, and Dr. Andy Benson, the incoming chair of the AANA's Professional Development Committee. We're going to be talking about how aspiring CRNAs can get the most of Annual Congress, from planning your schedule to networking to taking advantage of opportunities that many first-time attendees never even realize. Whether this is your first Congress or you're just still deciding whether you want to attend at all, I think this conversation will help you make the decision with a lot more confidence. Welcome to the CRNA Mentor Podcast here, Andy and Hallie.
Hi, happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to have you guys. This is something that every year, this time of year, I get excited about Annual Congress, and each year it just becomes more exciting, and there's so much more to it. We saw that firsthand with Nashville, and now here we are in August, and Boston is fast approaching here. And before we get into talking about how some of these aspiring CRNAs or RNs can attend Annual Congress and really why they should attend, I want to kind of start with this bigger question. For a long time, Annual Congress has been viewed kind of primarily as for practicing CRNAs. But a few years ago, the AANA expanded membership to include RNs and APRNs. What was the thought process behind that change?
Yeah, so I can answer that. We have so many RNs interested in what we do. Our education is relevant to a lot of ICU nurses and CCRNs and APRNs and other specialties. There's a lot that can cross specialties. And so I wasn't at AANA when they added that membership category, but, I think it makes perfect sense, because if you're interested in becoming a CRNA or even curious about the profession or what we do, who better to give you that information, right, than your national organization, to make sure you're getting, valid, correct information from your trusted source of an organization. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is something that, I was super excited to find out this option came out for the RNs, because there's so much to learn. And much of the mentorship that I do is really focused on identity and trying to, understand what this profession is all about. And Annual Congress is probably the number one place to do that. Why has the AANA become increasingly intentional about creating programming specifically for RNs?
When I was in nursing school or planning to become a nurse, I already knew I wanted to be a CRNA, and I hadn't shadowed, I hadn't done anything. I had just heard about it. Right. And so, a lot of people think that this sounds great, but this programming actually allows you to see what we do as a profession and give you insight. We have sessions on career insights at every stage, 1 year out, or even our RNAs to 30 plus years experience. We give a little bit of a history of the profession and things that you might not just hear from someone who's a CRNA and loves it, or that you've read about the profession, and think that that's what you want to do. So we want it to be really intentional so we can give people the knowledge to make the choice if this is the right career path for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think so many of us going into this profession really just thought about the clinical side of anesthesia. They just think the operating room. And this really opens the door to so much more to understand it and realize. And my first couple conferences, I'm like, wow, there's so much more to this. And I think, Annual Congress is a great example to see all of those different things. One of the things that I was super excited about to see more programming geared towards our RNs and aspiring CRNAs is, ever since mid-year assembly a couple of years ago, I started like the RN meet and greet, and I saw the value and the excitement in these RNs when they're like, oh, this is actually for me. And now that, I know it took a little bit of time, and you guys hit it spot on with the programming specifically geared towards the RNs, because, when they're like, this is for me, I think it feels different, much of this episode is kind of focused on the preparation and planning, specifically for first timers. What would you say tends to surprise first timers when they arrive at Annual Congress?
Sure, I can take this one. First, I'll just start. I absolutely love Annual Congress. In fact, my very first time was the first year as a student. And so that's been almost nearly 20 years ago. And I think I've only missed one or two, but it's it's amazing. There's lots going on, which then really is probably the one thing that, a first timer is going to realize that it's overwhelming and there's a lot going on.
Right.
And so I think it's important to plan. But also, I think if you've gone to other conferences, you'll realize that this conference is huge compared to others. I mean, there's nearly 4,000 people attend this conference, and it grows and grows each year. So there's just more and more attendees. So that's really great. But it's important to plan. It's also important to kind of pick what interests you. Even for CRNAs, there's a lot of times that there's concurrent sessions going on, or there's multiple things that you want to do at the exact same time. So you kind of have to prioritize, right. You have to kind of think about it and, really choose kind of what interests you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And one of the words you mentioned there, I really want to kind of key in on is this feeling of being overwhelmed. Even for CRNAs attending this conference, it's a lot. And I think, preparation is one of the ways to kind of combat that. I almost feel like, in a sense, and this is probably a bad comparison, it's almost like the wedding day. Like the wedding day, it just goes. You don't really remember much of it, but it just goes. And if you don't have some sort of thing mapped out as to how you're going to go about it, you're going to go to the conference, but are you going to experience as much as you wanted to? And I think, there's great opportunity here, but there's also opportunity to kind of not make the most of it. What would you guys say, separates someone who leaves Congress saying that was life-changing from somebody who says, well, I feel like I missed some opportunity here?
I think you need to be engaged, right? I mean, the AANA makes it very easy with the schedule on the app, and, you can easily kind of peruse and see where you want to go and what you want to attend. You can highlight it and make notes right into that, and then it can go right into your calendar so you don't miss any sessions. But, look ahead, plan, be engaged, be open. I think too, it's like you need to hit the main lectures, the keynotes, the opening ceremonies, all those lectures that are in memoriam of CRNA leaders. Hit those lectures, hit the RN lectures, and then also just kind of be open to whatever strikes your interests. There's lots to choose from, but just be engaged. Also, there's a lot happening after the meeting, whether it's in the hotel lobby bar or other events or in the exhibit hall. There's lots going on. So, join a friend, go around, meet people, and lots of people are excited to share information about our profession.
Yeah, certainly. And the planning piece, let's kind of get into, I guess, more specifics of that. Say somebody listening right now, they decided they're going to Congress, they're headed to Boston. How would you recommend that attendees begin planning for their Congress experience?
Yeah, so I would start with going onto the website now and seeing the sessions that are specifically marked for your interest group. So we're talking about RNs here, and those are marked with each session and the descriptions, and see what interests you. It's not to say you can't go out of those sessions, but those sessions, those activities, the ideas of things we've created were designed with RNs specifically in mind. So do a little pre-work, I think. Decide what your goals are out of Congress before you go. I think that helps a lot. Are you there to learn? Are you looking to get into school because other people aren't sharing? Try to find your goals that are aligning with why we're having Congress,
Right.
and be realistic about what to expect, based on what your goals are for going.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the things you mentioned there, these kind of curated sessions. If you go onto the website, I think that's like a yellow color. It says RN next to it. How do you kind of put that list together? Like, how did you figure out, oh, this is a good session for an RN?
Sure. So anything about like the history of anesthesia, kind of basic principles, professionalism, things that people might not realize the profession does. We have business leaders, so we've included entrepreneurs, our innovate session. So RNs can see the scope of what CRNAs do besides what they might have, heard about us being in the operating room. So we tried to kind of give a full breadth of what a CRNA can do in those sessions, and that's how we chose them. We did have one. We do have one that is designed just for RNs, was from beginning to end. Designed just for RNs in mind. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I think Dr. Michelle Canali and Dr. Jan
Yes.
Setner are
Jan
doing
Setner.
that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's going to be a great. I saw the outline for that. It's going to be a great one for them to listen to here. What would you say? Are there particular types of sessions that aspiring CRNAs often overlook, but really should make a priority to attend?
I would say, I mean, once again, those named kind of lectures, the the keynotes. Any lectures that interest you, whether it's peds or an OB or any clinical practice, I mean, go to them and it'll spark your interest, and go and listen. Party with a Purpose is something you don't want to miss out. This year it's at Fenway Park, so that's going to be lots of fun. The exhibit hall is one of my favorites just because you get to go meet all the vendors and see all the new technology and all the fancy like anesthesia gas machines. And then, all the other fancy equipment. And then, you can meet other maybe future employers and that kind of stuff too. So that's always a fun highlight. And you go there several times because it's so big. You kind of have to go through once and then kind of survey it and then go back again and start talking. And they always give out prizes and all kinds of stuff. So
lots of free stuff, right?
Oh my gosh, lots of free stuff. So it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, you mentioned Party with a Purpose, and last Congress in Nashville, I felt like I was in like Disney World. My favorite bar, Jason Aldean's, that you guys rented out. You had live music there. It was in Nashville. I'm like, this doesn't get much better, So, Fenway is going to be amazing as well. Let's talk a little bit about, some of these resources that are out there, specifically some of the resources that the AANA has built to help our RN attendees navigate Congress a bit more intentionally. And I think the first one, and this is kind of what this podcast kind of started out discussing, was this Know Before You Go webinar session. Hallie, could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we realize that this is overwhelming. Even if you're an RRNA, often you go with classmates, you have a buddy there, right? But a lot of RNs are putting themselves out there to go and learn and make connections and see about the profession. And so this is something that we decided to do this year, is create this curated path for RNs, but we also want to have a webinar just kind of to answer any questions and relieve any anxieties and go through the sessions that we think will be beneficial and some of the tips to navigate Congress. And like you said, events not to miss. Another great one is the first timers event. That's one, if you're going for the first time, obviously we'd love for you to hit. There'll be a lot of friendly faces there to answer questions too. So we really we're doing our best to take away that overwhelming feeling of seeing, 5 to 7 sessions at every hour for 3 days straight, so that's really the goal of the webinar. And, there'll be a panel of staff at the end, professional development committee members who make this all possible. So there'll be a range of people to ask your questions too. I do want to just mention, if I can, one thing we're going to talk about at that webinar too, is these sessions that we've made for RNs, we've gamified. with Elevate. So if you attend all these sessions, you'll get a certificate to show that you did the RN Professional Congress track, something for you to have tangible to show you were involved and active in Congress and the activities.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that came from Olivate. I was guessing it might have, but yeah, that's great. And that just adds just a whole other layer to it that just makes it that much more fun. You mentioned, going with RNAs going together. We have many nurses that have attended mid-year, that attended annual Congress last year. And actually, I was texting back and forth with one of my mentees today, and she was talking about, are you going to Boston? She's like, I really want to go. Some of the friends that I made there last year, I want to see them again. And this is an RN, that's looking to go to Congress again because they see the value and they see, the connections that you can make. I think there's something to be said about being kind of in the same stage of this journey as other folks. You can really kind of relate and experience this all together. So that's, what much of this is about. And also within our Facebook group, the CRNA Mentor community, we will be doing it again before annual Congress to have like the meeting before the meeting so people can introduce themselves and maybe find a friend before you get there if that's something that you're worried about. One of the things that we've kind of referenced a little bit is the meetings app, the conference app that helps attendees navigate Congress. Can we just talk a little bit about that? Because even my first conference, I wasn't aware of that. So how does the app work and what is it?
So what's great about the app is when it has all the sessions on there, and when you select, you can select the sessions that you're interested in going to. So you don't have to look at this, like we said, 6 sessions every hour all day long. So, that's one of the things you can kind of prep with is to really check off the sessions you want to go to. It has your evaluations. It has the slides on there. There's so much good information on that app. In and out of mine. You can also receive the daily updates on there. So in the morning, there's a morning blast that goes out just highlighting certain events for that day, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you can favorite all these things. You can look into the speakers. That's one of the things that, as I'm looking to network, I'm like, oh, Jeff Darner's over here. I got to get to, I got to go talk to Jeff at this presentation, so you can do the same thing. If you find your program directors are speaking, faculty at your school of interest, go to attend their sessions. And that's one way you can identify that as well.
I think there's one thing to also add about that, the app is this is the way that you get your CEUs. So you have to fill out all of the evaluations for each lecture that you attend and then the overall evaluation for the whole conference in order to get your CEU. So it's very important that you do it. And I would recommend that you do it after each lecture because by the end it's overwhelming, it's too much. And then there's a deadline. And if you don't hit a deadline, then you lose credit. So we're always reminding, being on the professional development committee, every lecture reminding everyone to please fill out these evaluations and get it in because after a certain date, there's you're just out of luck.
Yep, certainly. And that's something, as CRNAs, we're accumulating all these credits. RNs, I think they're kind of vaguely interested in it, but for us, especially if work's paying for it, it's like, you gotta show this, where are these credits? That's perfect to key in on here. One thing that I've heard over and over again from people who have attended Congress, that some of the most valuable experiences weren't actually at some of the lectures, but rather in the hallways or at some of these networking events. Can we talk a little bit about that, some of the power of just kind of being out and about as you're navigating the conference?
Sure. I mean, annual Congress gives you great exposure to lots of CRNAs, lots of CRNA leaders, program directors. I mean, it's just, it's a wide variety and I think you walk away with people love talking about our profession and people actually really love those RNs or those people that are interested in becoming part of it. It's, that's why I joined it. Cause it's like, I never met one CRNA that didn't like the job. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So I think it's just an opportunity to talk, to meet people from all over the country. So whether, there's probably a CRNA that's attending, that's, where you're from or where you live.
Yeah. And it's those conversations. I remember the first mid-year I attended, I had a mentee with me and we were going around, we ran into Daniel King and I'm talking to Daniel and then he turns his attention to his name's Alec. And Alec was blown away. He's like, he was genuinely interested in my background, where I'm from, what I'm doing. All of his attention was focused on me. And I can pretty definitively say that was like the highlight of Alec's experience at mid-year assembly. And it was a conversation. With a drink. It was super simple. You can have that too, but you have to put yourself in some of these opportunities and experiences to do that, right? One of the things that is a great opportunity that I believe was piloted at mid-year assembly this past year was these mock interview sessions. They really got a tremendous amount of great feedback from a lot of my mentees. Can you explain a little bit how they work, these mock interviews that you can do, and why these are a valuable experience?
Sure. I actually participated and helped with that at mid-year, those mock interviews. And it was great. I think it gives an opportunity for the RNs to kind of, practice their interview skills and kind of see how it goes and how it is. And then they receive feedback too of like, maybe you should talk about this, or maybe get to the point here, or this is a better approach. So it was really, I enjoyed doing it. And I think, the RNs did too.
Yeah. I think that the structure of it was almost like a speed dating, I guess, for lack of a better comparison. And you kind of bounce around. You have like I think 3 different mock interviews for each RN as they're going through. But yeah, this is a great experience and can simulate. I know some people came away and they were tearful after their experience because of the stress associated with it. And my take is like, better there than your actual interview, right? So
Exactly.
it's one of those things. Just get some reps, and this is a great opportunity to do it with program directors and faculty that are at some of these schools. Beyond like some of this mock interview conversation, what other experiences have the greatest potential to really influence somebody's journey towards becoming a CRNA?
I think it kind of gives you an opportunity to do a self-reflection, because you're learning about all this anesthesia stuff. And then you have to ask yourself, do I really enjoy this? Do I like this? Because there's nothing worse than going to school and not loving what you're studying and finding that joy. So, if you go there and you just love every minute of it, and you're like, this is so fascinating and interesting, and you're just like a sponge and you just want to take it all in, then maybe you probably should be a CRNA, right? But if you're not, if you're a little hesitant, or you're like, oh, I'm not that interested, or I'm not sure about this, that, it's better to decide now than, halfway through the program and, you decide this isn't for you, or you don't like that environment, or you don't, it's just not, because not everyone's built to be a CRNA.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great point. That's why one of the reasons I really focus on shadowing. It's so easy to think of our career as like, oh, you're doing all these intubations, all this crazy stuff, all these traumas. It's like, you need to get and see what CRNAs do, not just in the OR, but this is the great opportunity to see outside the OR what we're doing. And great insight there, Andy. Kind of piggybacking off of that, these experiences that we have, so much of this is about networking. I know that's many CRNAs across the country. That's why they prioritize these opportunities, because they get to see their friends a couple times a year. Mid-year assembly, annual congress, and but this is a place where we're bringing together educators, practicing CRNAs, RNAs, aspiring CRNAs. How can somebody make the most of these interactions, as an aspiring CRNA, or even, a nurse anesthesia resident?
I think going, of course, to the events that are made for socializing and mingling and meeting people outside of the CE sessions is the first step, so put yourself out there, go to those sessions, and then, introduce yourself and have kind of a 30-second blurb prepared. You don't have to go on and on, but let us know, why you're here, who you are. We're happy to, chat. We're chatty people, believe it or not. And anyone from the, Professional Development Committee, the AANA staff, we're happy to engage and kind of help direct you to make the most out of your experiences as well. I think the other things are, like I said before, kind of come with outcomes in mind. What are you really hoping to get out of this conference? Use it also as a chance to socialize into the profession. These are the people you would be working with on a daily basis. These are the people that might be your educators, might be your classmates even, or an upperclassmate, depending when you're starting. So definitely, use it as a chance to get socialized to the profession. I think another great thing to do is look at the poster presentations, when we're talking about what's underrated or things that, you shouldn't miss. See what the SRNAs are doing, see the work that they're producing in school, and also other nurse researchers that have presentations on posters and in the podium poster presentation. But I think that's a really great way to see what's going on in this profession. Is this something I want to be part of, in addition to just kind of taking it all in? I also want to add, you can never underestimate a hallway meeting. I've had some of my best meet and greets that way. You'll probably see me around Congress even doing that. So I agree, take in all the sessions. This is first and foremost an education event. But, I get to see Andy the 3 times a year, Edge, mid-year, and Congress. So I look forward, the same way like that RN was talking about where they met someone and they're excited to go back. I get excited to see my people that I don't see the rest of the year. So I think that's, there's a lot to that. So when people seem open to having conversations in the hallway between sessions, however, in the exhibit hall, take them up and chat them up and see what their suggestions are for you also.
I'll just add it. I think it's important. Be present, right? If you're present, it will happen naturally because people just love talking about it and you won't have to work that hard at it. Just show up, be friendly, be professional, show some interest, and you'll meet tons of people.
Put your phone away. Don't pretend you're looking at your phone. Engage, engage, right?
Right.
Hallie, what would you say, from your perspective, makes somebody memorable in a positive way in these hallway conversations?
So I think, sorry, Andy, not to steal your words that you just used, but I think being present, don't have this, have maybe a 30-second planned introduction, but don't come up with a, pre-programmed long introduction that the next person is going to have. Be yourself, be authentic. Let us know why you're there, what you're hoping to get out. We don't mind honesty. We don't mind if you're there to make connections, to get into school. We know that that's a lot of the reason why RNs are interested in meeting people and networking. And then we can, point you in the right direction or tell you now's a good time for this. Now is not. Go to this event, skip this one if that's your goal. But I think that authenticity really is what it comes down to, and people that clearly want to be there, like Andy said, that are present, taking it all in, and have questions relevant to what's going on, and just not this like we said, kind of prepared list that someone came in with.
Sure. I guess, Andy, on the flip side of that, what are some common mistakes that well-intended attendees kind of make when approaching faculty or educators?
Sure. I think don't be too aggressive, right? Don't be too forward. Don't, just let it happen naturally. I mean, I've seen it. People, if someone's involved in a conversation, don't interrupt that conversation. Just hopefully you can meet up with them again. Maybe they're talking to someone else, or don't swarm people. Just let it kind of happen naturally. And don't force someone or give someone your CV unless it's been, unless they ask for it. If they ask for it, like, oh, I love your CV, then give it to them. But we don't want them. You know what I mean?
Right.
The Congress, we don't want to, we're not there to collect your CVs,
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. Great insight. And that's something that topic comes up from time to time. And I have enough, friends that are educators around the country that they're like, there's some interactions that leave a great impression. There's others that are like, that was kind of forced. They just slammed their CV in my hand and ran away. And it's like, what do I get from that? So approach this with some emotional intelligence, I think is the takeaway here. What advice would you give someone who's naturally introverted or kind of intimidated by networking?
AANA just came out with this great networking guide for RNs, especially at events, and it has some conversation starters. So I think that's a great place to start. by using some of those kind of icebreakers, conversation starters. And of course, I keep saying the first timers events, party with the purpose, those are meant to kind of break that introvert bubble, if you will, and get people out there and engaged and talking to each other. So it's hard, believe it or not. I started out as an introvert, but it's a networking conference too, and people are there and they want to talk. So please don't be intimidated or discouraged, to go up and have conversations with people.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I'm very much an introvert myself as well. So you have to, I talk at mid-year assembly in the meet and greet presentation about, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you just embrace that, and in my first experience at mid-year, which actually wasn't too long ago, I was standing in the lobby and I'm waiting to go over to the party, and I'm standing there. I'm like, oh, none of my friends are going over. I'm just kind of, okay, what do I do? I end up walking over, and who's next to me but Tracy Young, and he was somebody that I really wanted to speak to, and we talked the entire way over there to the party, and it's like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but now all of a sudden, look what door opened, and now I get to talk to Tracy. So there's these opportunities that will open up if you just put yourself out there. So. I want to zoom out for a minute. We've been talking a bit about annual Congress, and I think it's important that we delineate. So often I talk to mentees, and they think about Congress simply as a resume builder. It's like, okay, I'm going to attend, check, I'll put it on my CV, and it'll be great for school. How would you encourage people to think about it kind of more broadly, or a bit deeper than that?
I would think one, when you finish and you walk away from the Congress, you should be exhausted and tired because there's so much going on. But then the other thing too, once again, I think you should think about what were your aha moments, or what did you really enjoy, or what sparked your interest, and what did you learn? Because sure, in those interviews, you want to be able to talk about that you went there, but tell us, well, what did you learn, or what was the highlight of it? We want specifics. Just want to know that you attended. I also think it's important just to, did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy what you were learning, and is this something you want to do for the rest, with your career?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's something that, I approach these conferences as this opportunity to plant the seed, in the eyes of aspiring CRNAs. And for me, like when I was in school, we did not have to attend any of the national meetings. I attended the state meeting and I attended my conference, I'm good. But it's when you put yourself in these positions and this idea to see, what presentation is going to resonate with you, what speaker is going to resonate with you. That's something that I always talk about, because it's like there's so many amazing leaders that are in our profession that are all over this conference. You just have to find them. And when you get to see somebody that maybe has a similar background to you, they're from maybe your target school, there's something that you connect with them with. It's like, then you can start to see, could I do that in the future? And I think this is an amazing opportunity for that as well. How can becoming involved in the AANA early kind of help shape somebody's career long after they've been accepted into a program?
Yeah, so I think, nurse anesthetists are different, where we have one national organization, right? NPs have lots of different organizations. And so I think you get that sense of how close we are as a community when you join early on. I mean, you'll see it, of course, at Congress and mid-year and all any events that we hold. But we are the one AANA. And so you see that sense of community. You also start to see everything else that goes on for our profession outside of just, becoming a CRNA. So you get to see the issues that we have to advocate for, what different states are going through, what national issues are a priority right now, right? So you get that sense of advocating for the profession long before, right? 3 to 4 years before you actually become a CRNA. It kind of introduces you to all that, which is really important. You also get a sense of what's important, to CRNAs. Like our committee work and things like that. If you just look even at what committees we have, those are because, at some point someone decided this is important for our profession. So we do have also RN spots on some committees. That's a great place to get involved and kind of see more even of the inner workings of AANA. But I think just building that sense of community early on really prepares you and socializes you and puts into perspective who we are, what we do, what we stand for, what we're fighting for, what we're educated on. It gets it to you right off the bat.
I love that. And that's, a perfect summation of Annual Congress, really. As we wrap this up, if you could give one piece of advice to our listeners before they even board this plane to go to Boston, what would that be?
Gosh, there's so much I would say, but the one piece of advice is just go and be authentic and get the most out of it. Like, don't just go and hide in your hotel room. We're all for taking tours of Boston, but be present, be active, be engaged at the conference. And so think about that before you even leave. Like, how am I going to be engaged? How am I going to make the most of this? And have your own personal plan of what works for you. We have lots of tips and tricks and sessions, but ultimately everyone knows themselves best. So just make that decision to be engaged and what that looks like for you.
Perfect. How about you, Andy?
I would say go with an open mind, be ready to have the time of your life. It's going to be fun, be excited about it. And just, once again, be open to all the new things and try different things and meet different people. And I think you're going to be surprised and you're going to walk away feeling amazed, oh, I'm so glad I went.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hallie and Andy, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all the work that you've put into Annual Congress, especially making this a warmer and more welcoming space for all of our aspiring CRNAs. And, I really think one of the biggest takeaways from this conversation about Congress is that it simply isn't just a resume builder. It's really about, looking out and zooming out on this profession and really understanding it at such a deeper level. And that's going to serve you now. It's going to serve you potentially years down the road if you really make the most of this conference. And much of what I wanted to convey in this entire episode is that it's very important to be intentional about how you're investing in this profession. And this is one of the perfect ways to do that. So if you're planning to attend Boston, I should encourage you to take advantage of the webinar that's out there, the Know Before You Go session, as well as make sure you look at the schedule, start planning. And that way, when you arrive, you'll be ready to go and make the most of this experience at Annual Congress in Boston. All right. And as always, thank you all for listening to the CRNA Mentor Podcast. If you found this information helpful, I'd appreciate it if you shared it with one of your friends, maybe one of your coworkers who's going with you to Boston this year. All right. So thank you very much again, Hallie and Andy, and take care.